Everyone, a very good morning to you all. Welcome to Sunrise Daily. I'm Chamberlain. What's up?
Good morning. Welcome to the program.
Yep.
It's a beautiful Thursday morning.
You said it again.
Makinde. I just did. Want
All
me
right.
to repeat it? You were saying something.
No, you did say it again.
All right. Thank you for choosing to share your day with us on Sunrise Daily on Channels Television. I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo.
There's love in sharing, remember that.
Yes, of course. Malkwe.
And we're descending Humps Day beautifully. Good morning. Welcome to Abuja. I'm Malkwe Ogun Yusuf.
We're talking about showing some love. Honorable Bamidele Salam, you may know him. He represents Oshun in the House of Representatives. He is speaking up, and it's a one-man protest, actually. So he's talking about those who were kidnapped in that Kaduna-Abuja train. Yes, you may wonder, does it mean that what's being done about all of those? Have they been forgotten? And is it true to type the way some of these things happen? I know there are several questions as to what exactly is the role of state? How do these kind of things happen? And it just appears as though the people are just all by themselves, all alone, all on their own. And then when they make statements, you hear certain other agencies, well, it's not exactly entirely true. Well, come on. But look, the thing is, something needs to be done. He, from his perspective, he just appealing to the president. He held that placard saying, Mr. President, please do something. We know the buck stops at this table in terms of what needs to be done. So it's not just about saying something. It's about being seen to do something.
I remember, I don't know who it was. I was at an event and someone said, one of the angles to our insecurity that we haven't looked at is that we lost the first line of defense. And what is the first line of defense? The local government system. Everyone knows everyone in every local government in the country, and especially with the wards and the councillors and everyone. So everyone knows everyone. So before anyone can just get into the community to do anything untoward, someone is asking, who are you? Where are you from? We don't have that anymore.
It's not even just someone. I remember many years ago when I was in Cardiff, and just going down, playing around, from the barber to the local policeman there.
See?
They knew that you were new.
Exactly.
And they thought, okay, you're new in town. What's happening? Why are you here? Just as though they were striking a conversation normally with you, but they're gathering information, gleaning a lot from what you do. And
that's how long ago? Not too long ago.
Several years ago.
Okay. Excuse me. So we had that also in this country several years ago. Everyone knew everyone. You got into a community and it's a communal environment. Everyone raises everyone's child. So a stranger comes in. Who are you? Where are you from? Whose child are you? If you got lost, I remember in my town, if you got lost like 10 kilometers away from home, they'll just ask you, who is your father? Once you can know the name of your father, they will, that's the so house, they will direct you or put someone on you to take you home. If you were a stranger, you have to explain how you got there. So all of this ethnicity, religious biases, sentiments, they didn't exist. So if we are able to bring that back, and thankfully the Constitution Review is speaking in that line, we hope that the state houses of assembly will concur and help us to put that first line of security back in place. Because then you involve everybody in the network. So all of this insecurity we're talking about, and the Kaduna, train attack is just one of several that are still unresolved as of now. How about many cases that we are hearing about in the Southeast, that so many people get, I don't know, I really don't like talking about bad news, but that's our reality. So if we can bring back that first line of defense, hopefully we'll get ahead of it.
And just to add to that part of the conversation about how we grew up, if you were an erring child and you were found somewhere in your community and another adult saw you, it's a joint responsibility.
Absolutely.
That adult would reprimand you. But back to the main issue, which is the big subject. So many other people that have been kidnapped from the time of the year of the Chibok kidnapped, have they been returned? More recently, the kidnapping on Goambulus that happened in southern Kaduna, have those people, found their family members? Have they returned home?
Yeah.
Back to the kidnap on the Abuja-Kaduna train route, those people have been speaking. They're in agony. There was supposed to be a situation room to be constituted, such that those people will be helped. Has that been done? You know, we were saying it earlier on the program about how the resignation of the minister in charge would affect the instruction by the president for a situation room to be constituted such that there will be negotiations, there will be interaction with the kidnappers. That has not been done. There's a substantive minister of transportation that can handle that. But the people say that nothing has been done, that government is not in any form of interaction with them, that they're just on their own.
So that, of course, is
Honorable
Salam right there. So he's even walking barefoot just to make drive his point home, and that's the picture of some of those who are still in captivity at the moment. So taking the pains, doing what is expected of a lot of other people.
And it's instructive that this is coming from a lawmaker. I was going to say that I recall when the former Minister of Finance and presidential aspirant, candidate, by the way, was kidnapped some years back. You know, the state rallied to ensure that he was rescued and the kidnappers were brought to book. Those kidnappers have been prosecuted. So what's the measure of human life? Well, the human life of the common man as against the human life of politically exposed, high-profile individuals. There's a remarkable difference. But until we begin to place the same measure of human life on the life of those beneath the rung of the ladder, before we can begin to make meaningful progress in the country. Malkwe?
Well, what's more to add, Buki? There's only so much to say. I think it is really commendable that Honorable Bamidele Salam has decided to go it alone. More or less, like, if there's no platform, don't forget that the Senate and the House of Reps are currently on recess so that their members can concentrate on the primaries currently ongoing in their various constituencies. But the question is, to what end? If government is about the security of lives and property, and here we have our citizens in different dens of kidnappers all over the country, and we cannot do anything about it, we seem to be helpless in the face of kidnappers, then what exactly is the essence of government? It raises a very big question, a fundamental question. There is no platform for him to speak right now in the House of Representatives, but he's decided that, look, I think I have sufficient platform. I can go this alone. I can raise my voice as one person. I think that the lessons are many. Yes, some will argue that he's a lawmaker and so he'll get media coverage, but I don't think it's about media coverage. It's about, you know, still getting your voice heard, however it is that you get your voice heard. The people who feel this on a daily basis, and I think that's one of the reasons why we've chosen to highlight this morning, to also add our voices to the fact that people are in captivity. It's not of their own making. They entered a train provided for by the government of Nigeria, and they were kidnapped. Some people lost their lives, very sadly, on that journey. Others were kidnapped for over 60 days now. They have been in captivity. He asked a very vital question. Is the state telling us that they are that weak, that we lack that capacity to be able to bring our people out of the den of kidnappers? It then makes perfect sense that a prelate had to pay 100 million naira to secure his own release, as well as the release of 2 other people who had been kidnapped alongside. We really need to do something as a country. We need to show a little more strength on this. We cannot continue to postpone and, you know, shift the date. A former deputy governor was on that train. It's only a matter of time before you just imagine, governors have taken that train before. Even the president has been on a ride on that train. Would that have happened to them? Could that have happened? If that had happened for any reason whatsoever, would this have been our response? There are many questions to ask, but the Nigerian state needs to answer the question as to whether it now lacks capacity to be able to deal decisively with those who threatens the life of its citizens.
Well, yes, indeed. You know, and some of the several questions suggest that, look, it's either we have a defective security system or the security agencies are looking the other way. Looking the other way has subsets. So why are they looking the other way?
And don't forget, we don't have just one security or 2 security agencies.
Yeah.
We have 13.
And we know that when the NSAS protest happened, you know the efficacy, how swift the agents of state were able to identify certain persons. They said they traced certain monies. They said they found certain things So where is that accuracy? Where is that efficiency now that all of
When
these
it
things
is
are happening?
in dire need.
Your guess is as good as mine.
And we're set to see that efficiency again, Shibilin, during elections.
There you go.
Oh.
Even though I have no guess. But let's get right to the dailies and take you through some of them. We'll start with New Telegraph this morning. 2023 presidency. That's what it's going to be about from now up until, who knows, that particular day and perhaps some months after. Obasanjo moves against Atiku's candidacy. Some of those videos, clips that Channels TV had, the snippets you have online, surfaced again, circulating. People keep memories, they keep tabs, archives.
You know what we say, Jemilin, the internet never forgets.
Yeah.
Well, albeit to misrepresent the current facts. So we have to be wary of fake news.
Or whatever you say at any given time.
Yeah, but the ones that we have online there, those ones happened.
Yeah, they happened.
So those are the impressions and the views they held at the time. So it's on record. So it's up to people to make their minds up.
And it's on video, please. So
on video too, so you can hear them speak. So look at the writers. May mobilize support for obese ex-South... I beg your pardon, I'll go again. May mobilize support for Obi, ex-South governor as point man. Southern alliance against North likely. Pressure mounts on Wike to challenge outcome of shadow poll in court. We must win 2023 presidency, says Ayu, as crisis rocks Fayoshe's camp. So, there you go. And then, still talking about that one, naming successor makes Buhari a dictator. Subscribe to MBF. Backs Edwin Clark's call for Ayu's resignation. NUP vows to mobilize votes for pension-friendly politicians. That's Union of Pensioners. So, there you go.
Look at the front page of the Daily Times newspaper. What do you have on the front page? It's still talking succession. And this is how the Daily Times newspaper puts it. Don't follow Obasanjo's example. Lukman warns Buhari. Has just one rider. Lists dangers of handpicking successor. The story continues on page 2.
I'd like to see that list. That list. Because we know some governors, I don't know what they did about that list. Several elections, we know what they do and what they keep doing.
Okay.
So
many stories on the front page, but there's this one and then we'll move on. Nigeria not for sale. Atiku can't be president, says Abdul Karim. Which one? Stories on page 5 says Buhari must do the right thing. That's the Daily Times newspaper today.
All right, speaking of lists, the leadership newspapers, take a look at this. The picture spread catches my fancy. Leadership newspapers this morning, Tinubu, Osinbajo, Lawan, Amechi, Bello. 4 others may be shortlisted. And the top rider there, or the big headline there, says APC front runners. So there you have it. Whether it's leadership newspaper's opinion or the opinion of the writer, the front runners, and you have their picture spread. You have Tinubu, the vice president, the Senate president, former minister of transportation, and a host of others beneath. So perhaps those are the names to watch out for.
9 front runners
as the primaries approach. All right. Let's go to the left-hand corner of the leadership newspapers. FIRS begins recovery of unremitted tax deductions by states, local government areas. And just beneath that, you find another 166 stranded Nigerians return from Libya. That's the leadership newspapers this morning, albeit not leaving you on a depressing note with that last story. Malpe.
Vanguard has this one. APC stakeholders rail against Buhari's bid to pick successor. That's what you find on the front page. What would they do about it is the question. They're just railing, eh? APC stakeholders rail against Buhari's bid to pick successor. PANDEF APC NWC member stakeholders oppose, slam Buhari's succession plan, ask him to be moral compass to state governors. Governors meet on regional basis to prevail on aspirants to step down for consensus candidate. Stepping down won't work, that's according to an aspirant. Choosing your successor too risky, costly for Nigeria's democracy. APC NWC members tell Buhari it's democratic. That's from Mundume. Buhari knows what to do to keep APC in power. That's from Yaya Bello. APC governors should reciprocate. That's from Ajulo, and Buhari may settle for Shibajo. That's according to a source. So all manner of speculations coming in there. Page 5 is where you'll get all of the details. But look at this. The real issues. The issue, while of the politicking, should be important. Look at this. Power generation dips below 2,000 megawatts as poor supply persists. I don't know what electricity supply has been at on your end. I'm supposed to be living in a priority zone, but I know just how poor the power supply has been. Look at this. Federal government moves to tackle rising food prices. PDP delegates share convention money with community members. So just in case you're wondering if indeed there was any money shared, page 6 might give you details. Mr. and Mrs. is also on the front page this morning. Should we read it to you or should we leave you to do it? Pesara's chance to restore confidence in Eagles. That's talking about the Nigeria versus Ecuador match is on Vanguard Sports for you. But just to maybe put a bit of humor, it's a Thursday after all. Mr. is saying, hey, you in the cabin, don't you think the tubular air vent whose revolution bears you onward in space has not retained its pristine rotundity? And the poor driver says, Professor is at it again. Madam, please come to my rescue. And Madam says, please don't mind him. He was only trying to tell you that we have a flat tire. You know, when grammar is too much, sometimes you'll keep driving on your flats until you spoil your rims. But that's Vanguard newspapers for you this morning.
Oh, he's lucky if there were kidnappers on that road. And he's speaking of that grammar.
That will not be funny.
You know? And he's speaking about those people who are railing about the president's successor. If we remove the R there and put a W,
or just
I
remove,
just wonder what that
R,
will be.
Remove R, remove W, and what will it be? Ailing?
Okay, well,
Wailing?
Nigerian Tribune is next today, and they also speaking about the president's successor on the front page of the Tribune here today. So if you go ahead and take a look at that. Do we have it or not? Okay, so I don't know. Let's see if we can go ahead and get another one if we don't have the Nigerian Tribune. So just let us know. What do we have?
Try Guardian.
You could try News Direct.
Give us something, guys. Give us something.
News Direct newspapers.
Okay, let's switch to the front page of
We just looked at this.
Okay.
Well,
this is Vanguard newspaper. If we have the Tribune, if not, let's just go to whichever one you have on the screen. But flip to, if you can, the Daily Independent newspaper. We already had this one. Daily Independent newspaper, that's what you have on the front page. And what do you have now? My victory is for Nigerians suffering APC misrule. It would seem like that's some kind of response, right? So of course, ascribed to Atiku. PDP will take over from colorless, clueless government. IU vows. Find the details. Continue on the inside pages. Right under the picture, Buhari picking successor, may a rubbish image. APC party chieftain warns. Find the details on the inside pages. The rest of the details on the inside pages of the paper.
There's so many perspectives about that picking successor. We know how some of this intro. They know that INEC has set up a rule. So whatever they do there, they will ensure, I reckon, I like to believe that it complies with the electoral guidelines. So they have a way of working these things out among themselves. Remember when they were all talking about the chairmanship position, the leadership of the party, and blah, 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 after several weeks, months, just a couple of weeks before the time, or even days, Then the word came from the top. This is the way we need to go. What happened? They all grumbled and left the room. Did anybody say no?
When governors, you started the other time by talking about the governors. Okay, well, yesterday that the governors choosing their successors and all. Maybe it's the words or the coinage of the words that is going out wrong. Look, every leader a good leader should be interested in how his programs are sustained. I think that's the perspective.
Well, that
because don't
has to be
also forget,
contextualized.
Exactly. Don't forget that even Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, when he was president, also was interested in who will succeed him in government. So I don't think it is something out of place. It's perhaps the narrative. And you said maybe they're the politicians.
And I imagine that, the choice of a democratically elected leader should be trusted in terms of who his successor should be. So whether that will also be subjected to the structures of that democratic institution.
Right. I think we'll have the Tribune now. So if I can go back to it, guys,
Tribune.
as quick as I can. So if you take a look at that front page of the Nigerian Tribune now, disquiet in APC over Buhari's statement. So there you go. I think that lends credence to a lot of what is also making the rounds there. Look at some of the writers. Your choice of candidate will jeopardize our chance. Stakeholders tell Buhari. NWC member warns party leadership on danger of consensus candidate. So where has this NWC been when different states adopted consensus, ratified it, and then moved on? Where was the NWC? Oh, wait, is this a new NWC? It wasn't the NWC at that. NWC is NWC. As far as
don't forget the conversation we had yesterday on Ebonyi State. And Ebonyi State has an APC governor. So,
and those are members of NWC as well. Well, who knows? That's Tribune.
All right, from Tribune, let's move to, if we have the Daily Trust newspapers, and the big story from the front page says, confusion, horse trading among governors, aspirants, camps. Consensus talks divide governors. Lobbyists intensify push. Discordant tunes as aspirants claim Buhari's endorsement. Now, the consensus talks did not divide the governors when they were going to pick their own successor. So how come the consensus talks are dividing them right now?
Or is this just hot air? Are they giving us sound bites?
Thank you.
You press men love sound bites. You press men like this kind of.
Look, there is an antecedent to a particular political party. It's almost always been consensus. So where's the hot air? Look, all of this.
But we didn't see the consensus with that particular political party this time. And, there was a lot of talk about it when it zoned the chairmanship to the north. It was expected that the presidency would be zoned to the south.
I'm talking about, the APC. Historically, that's been look, it's almost like no contest. This is the person we all know, almost like. I was at the presidency, the move that shut up Nuhu Ribadu at the time was a consensus agreement. I was there at the convention, everyone stepped down for, and then that one arose. So,
wow, you've been in politics?
I was a journalist like you, just for the records and the CD.
No worry, Chimele will probe you after the program. Just before we exit the Daily Trust, let's go to the bottom corner, which is another troubling story. Bandits abduct scores, burn 8 vehicles on Kaduna Highway. When will Kaduna-Abuja Highway stop being a mystery, a no-go area?
Well,
a rhetorical question, but something we should think about.
Yeah. Let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper next, and they report as well on the same subject matter. APC stakeholders, Pandev, slam Buhari on successor charge. In spite of all that's been said, I wonder if this will galvanize a lot of other Nigerians to say, those who don't have PVC or those who had the PVC and never really bothered to go and vote on that day, to say, you know what, this time, let politicians do their thing, but we, the people, will come out and get our voices heard at the end of the day. Really and truly this time, Who knows? You never can tell what could do that. Well, that is The Guardian, which ends a look at some of the front pages today. Remember, you can weigh in as well. You, the people. We are here. You know that, don't you? Well, back in a moment. Don't go away.
Well, that last statement, which was given by the First Lady of Nigeria, Aisha Buhari, saying that she will support female contestants, is quite telling, because in her home state of Adamawa, a woman candidate has emerged, the candidate of the All Progressives Congress. So it will be quite a battle to see what eventually happens in her home state. But this morning, we're talking about the participation of women in general in politics. In not too many places have we seen women emerge as candidates of political parties. What stands in their way? Well, we're speaking with somebody who should know this morning, herself a stalwart in the People's Democratic Party. I have the honor to introduce Hajia Ina Miriam Chiroma, who is a member of the People's Democratic Party Board of Trustees and also a former Minister for Women Affairs. She also recently contested to be the Deputy National Chairman of the People's Democratic Party for the Northern Region. Ma'am, you're welcome to Sunrise Daily this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, what period it has been for women. There's been quite a number of agitations this year alone. Even before we entered the political season, we saw what happened with the Constitution Amendment process and how it would seem that gender wasn't quite mainstream. Some of the requests that women had made that they be, mainstreamed into the Constitution wasn't quite heeded to. So the agitation this year has been quite loud on the part of the women. I think that happened on the 1st of March, which was also the Women's Month. Yes. So far, so good, though. Are you quite impressed with the level of participation you're seeing amongst the women folk and the emergence of women as candidates for the upcoming elections in 2023?
Honestly, a lot of women leaders in this country are not happy with what is going on in our country regarding female participation in politics. We have always agitated that space must be created for Nigerian women to participate effectively in the governance of their country. But up till now, we have not achieved that. That is it. Because I know historically, Nigerian women were in fact, they are the people that started the agitation for independence in this country. We know that it was the Aba women's right that propelled independence in Nigeria. And since then, up to today, the men have not given us our rightful position in political participation in this country. Therefore, this year alone, I remember we escorted the First Lady to visit the two chambers, the Senate and the House of Representatives. You were with the First Lady on that trip? That is regardless of the fact that you are a stalwart in the PDP? Yes, because as far as we are concerned, it is women's issue. It has nothing to do with political party. And as the First Lady of this country, she's our leader. So we followed her to the National Assembly to plead with the National Assembly to please amend the Constitution to include the actualization of the 35% affirmative action. And they promised that they are going to effect it. But it never happened. And Nigerian women are not happy with that process. So we are still insisting that women should be included. The just concluded primaries of the political parties is nothing to write home about. We are not happy. Beginning of this political era, at least in 1999 to 2007, we had about 9 women, female senators, quite a number of House of Representative members, but it is declining. Instead of it to be rising, it's declining. Therefore, we are not happy. Nigeria belongs to all of us. And I always tell people that we go to school with these men, from primary school up to university. We sit exams with them. And because you are a woman does not mean that your brain is less effective than that of a man. So we feel that space should be created for Nigerian women to participate in politics. Globally, things are changing. And Nigeria cannot be left behind.
But you have grown to the position of a stalwart. I mean, even though it would seem that largely a lot of the positions that you have occupied have been, confined to women. For instance, you were national woman leader in your own party. You have been minister for women affairs. When you eventually decided to get into the terrain, the turf, which would seem like as if you were competing with the men, what kind of obstacles would you say you came against?
Actually, I even contested for the Senate in my state, Southern Borno Senatorial Zone, in 2003. In the primaries, actually, I emerged, but then there was going to be a runoff between myself and my co-contestant. And at that point, the PDP had a policy that if you have two contestants, and a man and a female, and they came neck to neck, they will give the ticket to the female. That was an encouraging policy of the party. Unfortunately, in my own case, it was not effected. So I could not get the ticket.
It was not effected?
No.
So it was only a policy in mouth?
It was, some women were able to get it, but in my own case, as usual, the men, they ganged up to say that my emirate, that's the emirate, they always produce the deputy governor, and they will not accept the senatorial seat. So it became an issue, but that was it, and I was denied the ticket, but that did not discourage me. I said, well, we have to fight on. And up till now, as we are talking, we know that women are finding it very difficult. Apart from the ganging up of the men to stop women that want to contest, there's also the issue of financial. The women are not really financially capable to venture into politics, because in Nigeria, politics is all about having money to buy votes, and it's not easy for the women. But then it does not mean that we can't come and support the women. Men do support themselves, and if a woman is capable, why can't men also support a capable woman? Because we are talking of people that have credibility, people that can deliver, people that can help governance of this country. Women can do it. We have so many women in the economic sector. We have women in the civil service that have proven their worth in this country. So why can't we support women in politics?
It's a big question. Tell us about your last experience when you decided to be Deputy National Chairman North of your party.
Actually, it was a very tough fight, because the PDP used to have two Deputy National Chairmen in the country, one North, one South. And then at a point, it was jettisoned. But then in 2017, they brought the idea back. And in one of our very high-profile meetings, the men came up with the idea that, well, if we have two deputies, why can't we have one, a woman? And they agreed that one should be a woman. The matter was even brought before the the neck of the party. I was there. And some of our governors pleaded that, please, one of the positions for the Deputy National Chairman should be a woman. Why? Because in the National Working Committee, we have 18 members. Out of the 18 members, only one woman, national woman leader. Because the Deputy National Woman Leader is not a member of the Working Committee. Only National Woman Leader is a member of the National Working Committee. It's not enough. We need more women voice in the National Working Committee. So why don't we give at least the Deputy National Chairman one to the women? So it was zoned to the north and then northeast. And I happened to come from northeast. So the women now said, Hajia, please contest that position, because it's now for the women. And I indicated interest to contest. And a lot of women supported the idea that it should be. And the women, you cannot believe it, they came together, paid for the form, 3 million naira. They paid for it. They said, you don't need to, because it's our position, you don't have to pay kobo for it. So they bought the forms for me, and we indicated, we submitted the forms. I was screened, and I was cleared to contest. And you cannot believe it. Some of our leaders could not accept a woman to be deputy, not the national chairman, or the deputy national chairman. It became a serious issue for them. How can we have a woman to be a deputy national chairman of the party? So they ganged up and they insisted, they even invited me that I should go there. They pleaded that I should step down. I said, no, I cannot step down. It's not about me. It's not my position. It's the women. You need to talk to the women. If they say they are no longer interested in the position, I will step down. But I cannot step down. They tried as hard as they could. I refused. And they called the leaders of the party, now called a meeting of all the women leaders of the PDP, and we appeared before them. Because I told them, if the women agree to step down, I will step down. But if they refuse to agree, I'm going to go ahead and lose the election at the convention ground. I prefer to go and lose the election because politics is all about winning or losing. I don't care to lose the election. So we appeared before them and they pleaded, but the women also were adamant. They said we should go ahead. And we went to the convention. Of course, they had a unity list. And the unity list was the one that was used to ensure that some of us did not get the seat. So honestly, in fact, my sister, I would tell you this idea of election, that is the direct and indirect election. Nigeria should go for indirect election. Sorry, for direct election, where everybody will vote. Because if we talk of delegates, it will be difficult for women to get it. Because we all know what goes into conventions, into elections, congresses. We know what goes in there. So if we have direct election, it's Nigerian citizens that will go out and vote, and I'm sure they do not care whether you are a man or a woman, and as long as you go there and represent them, they will vote for you.
Let me flip this to Lagos now.
And good morning, Hajia. You talked about delegates list, and that's why I want to explore by looking at some of the roles that women themselves play in their own exclusion in the political space. The delegate system is a system where the women can themselves be influential. But in the campaign videos that we've seen of the aspirants going around the country, appealing to delegates and wooing delegates, we've seen very, very few number of women as delegates. Why are women not, trying to be part of delegates, to be elected as delegates?
Well, we all know that when we talk of delegates, elected as delegates, the truth of the matter is that even the delegate list are people that are just chosen by the leaders in the states. No real election normally takes place. They will submit list of people they want to be delegates because they want to control who becomes what. These delegates are also controlled by their leaders in their states. That is why you do not find a lot of women as delegates in the parties. So that's why I say that there must be direct election where people are elected to represent their constituencies. But if you have delegates that will go there and conduct the election, definitely we have very few women in the list because
the first qualification
give.
But the first qualification for being a delegate is that you're a member of a political party. Perhaps registration for membership from the women folk is few and far between. Hence, they've excluded themselves from that process already.
No, a lot of women register to be members of political parties. We have a lot of them as members of the political parties. When we go for elections, you will find a lot of women coming out. In fact, in the PDP, the national woman leader organized a meeting with our female aspirants. And you cannot believe it, we had about 250 aspirants contesting for various positions in the country, from the House of Rep to state assemblies, the Senate, even the presidential candidate. So we had a lot of women that came forward to contest for these elections. So it's not as if women are not presenting themselves for election. They are. But the thing is that they are always just distant.
how come the only female presidential aspirant in the PDP primary election got 1 vote, even if the party has very few women as delegates? Why didn't the female delegates that participated in the primary support their own?
That is quite true. I was there at the convention ground. When she was making her own presentation, we were all very proud of her. We are very happy that at least we have a woman that is bold enough to contest for the office of the president. But unfortunately, politics is also about talking to people. You must go and converse for votes. People will vote for you, but even men can vote for you, but you need to go and converse for votes. You need to go and work with them, align with them, seek for their support. If you don't do it, you just go there and appear. A lot of people will not understand it and they may not support your idea. But we will appeal to our women leaders that want to contest for elections. They must also do the needful. They must go and seek the support of everybody, not only the female delegates, but the male delegates. Some of them believe in women. We have a he for she. So I believe that the onus is also on us to go and seek for their support and then present to them what we think we can offer to the system. So I think maybe the problem is that she did not maybe go out to seek the support of the delegates or whatever. I do not know what happened, but I know that she made a very brilliant presentation at the convention ground.
Which is why some would say that there are many women in this country who also have the financial muscle, the wherewithal to support one of their own. And part of winning the presidential primary is confidence building, going around the country and wooing delegates. So why didn't those women who have financial muscle support Madam Tari Oliver to present her mandate, to present her manifesto to delegates across the country, as we saw the men folk do during the campaign for election?
Honestly, I think I need to say this on the television because I was not even aware that we had a female contestant in the PDP. I was not aware. So as I said, there is need for reach out. You need to reach out to people to seek for their support. But unfortunately, some of us were not even aware that we had a female that is contesting for the presidential ticket. Otherwise, we'll advise her, we'll rally around her because as far as I'm concerned, it's history in the making. If she is able to get it, we'll all be very happy. Some other countries have achieved it. Why can't Nigeria achieve it? Why can't we have a female president? But we also need to do what the men are doing.
Well, madam, there's this quote, of course, we threw that on air the other time from the United Nations women, UN women. And we're talking about women facing hurdles. Now, this is what it says right there on your screen. Women face several obstacles to participating in political life. Structural barriers through discriminatory laws and institutions still limit women's options to run for office. Capacity gaps mean women are less likely than men to have the education, contacts, and resources needed to become effective leaders. I'd like you to speak to some of these things, madam, and how you think we can navigate around it. Of course, we know that, the National Assembly has been, women have been clamoring and engaging the National Assembly, and we've seen, what happened to those 5 women-centric bills, and which, of course, it will seem like the National Assembly is starting to rethink or take a second look at. If you can speak to some of those, what the UN women call structural barriers and capacity gaps, what do you think we should be doing to stem that tide? Because time is not waiting.
Yes, actually there are serious issues affecting women's participation, especially some of the issues that were raised by the UN women. But for me, the educational gap, I don't think is an issue because a lot of women are very, very educated and well exposed to participate in politics. The laws and also traditional beliefs, because sometimes some people will tell you that the religion does not allow a woman to be a leader. And I don't think that is true, especially for the Muslim society. We have it in so many Islamic countries that women has emerged. Women, if you go to a country like Qatar, you'll find a lot of women in their law, the assemblies, their state assemblies or their state government as women as legislators. We had a woman as a president in a lot of Arab countries. So why can't a woman be a leader in Nigeria? We are not talking of being a leader in the masjid. You are not going to lead prayers. It's about administration. Therefore, the issue of saying that women should not lead because a religion does not allow a woman to lead, I don't think this is the issue. We need to be given the space to participate. As I said, if we are educated, we go to school together and we sit for exams together. In Nigeria, the Nigerian constitution is not discriminatory about employment. We have equal opportunities in the civil service. We have equal opportunities in the business sector. But why is it in politics? They will tell that she's a woman. They will now look at your gender and say she's a woman. So these are things that we need to look at. The men need to be fair to the female gender. Issue of saying that she's a woman, what stops her from becoming a leader if she's a woman? I was a minister. I will go to my office, I'll come home, look after my husband, look after my children, I will do my work. It does not affect the way you handle your house. It does not affect the way you manage your people. In fact, it adds value. They say educate a woman, you educate the whole society. Why don't we empower the women to also participate in politics effectively? This is our country, and we need to give in also to the development of this country, all of us. So I know that there are some laws that also it's not in support of women's participation. These are laws that need to be looked into and eradicated. The National Assembly, we are pleading with them. We are pleading with the National Assembly to please go back to that issue of 35%, because they have their daughters, they have their sisters. Why would we want to deny your own daughter the right, her right in her country? So we need to look at this issue dispassionately and ensure that women are also carried along. So we are appealing to the National Assembly to go back to that issue of women's participation so that space could be, we are not saying 50-50. We are saying only 35%. So why should that be a problem?
You know, there are some who say that what you actually need to achieve what you want is a strategy, and that you can actually make them go back to it. But let me pick up on some of the things that you highlighted, while you were making your point. For instance, there's so many who may not know that Muslim women can be in leadership positions. Now, you just highlighted that, but are you doing anything? Is anything being done to ensure that those who don't know now know that, yes, you can rise up and play a very prominent role in politics?
Yes, there is the need to engage some of our religious leaders, because we need to engage them to enlighten the people about the true position of things as provided. Even culturally, I remember when I was a minister, I went to a region in this country and they told me that a woman cannot break a kola nut. A man should do it for you. In fact, they asked my police only to do it for me. And I felt that that is not right. But then it's the culture. That is what the culture says. So honestly, we need to look at those issues seriously. Because why should you say because she's a woman, she cannot do this? Where is God created us all, and we are there, we have all the capacities, God gave us all the capacities to be able to deliver. And I don't think it's right for somebody to say because she's a woman, she cannot do that. So we need to engage our leaders, we need to engage our religious leaders, we need to engage our political leaders to ensure that they realize that it's not fair for them to treat more than 50% of the population the way we are being treated.
So as we go into the 2023 polls, though, I mean, very few candidates have emerged. What would you be saying first to the candidates and also to generality of the folk who will be voting for them?
Yeah, my advice to the candidates is that we need to network seriously. We need to canvass for votes, not only canvass for votes, but also engage our leaders, our male leaders, to support us. You have obtained the ticket, you have the ticket, but winning the election is also another issue. It's a big problem. So we need to network, we need to work together, we need to support each other. I was telling people that for me, political parties are there, our allegiance to our parties is there, but then if we have a woman contesting, we should all unite and support the woman. I used to say that Nigerian women, all of us must come together. All of us must come together and fight for our rights. We should, when we are able to achieve that, then our parties will be able to give us the space. But we have to come together and fight for it. So if we have female contestants, we must all support them so that they emerge. When they are in the National Assembly to decide or to make laws, the party is now at the background. Is the issue of gender. When we have issues affecting women and they are there to decide, they will decide for all Nigerian women. So I think we need to support each other seriously.
Well, ma'am, we have to thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us this morning. Hajia Ina Miriam Chiroma is a member of the PDP Board of Trustees and also a former Minister of Women Affairs. Thank you so much for coming on Sunrise Daily.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
We take a break at this point. We'll have many more perspectives on different issues when we come back from this break. Please stay with us. It's still the primary season, and yes, a lot of the focus have been on the two major political parties, but a few other parties are also coming up and they're showing or putting out a good showing. We have this morning with us Mr. Dumebi Kachiku, who is an aspirant, a presidential aspirant on the platform of the African Democratic Congress, which is the ADC. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily this morning.
Thank you, Mokwe.
Well, what a time we're in right now. We've seen that, the two, a lot of attention is being given to the two major political parties, the PDP, which was once in power, and the APC, which is taking over federal power. But the ADC looks like it also has something up its sleeve. Is it going to be showing example in terms of how it eventually conducts its primaries?
I think Nigerians are going to see ADC as the alternative to the two main parties. Our primaries are on the 8th of June, and people will see a difference between what we've seen happen with PDP, what we're seeing going on with APC, and what will happen on the 8th of June in Abeokuta with ADC. It's a totally different party, different ball game. The caliber of aspirants you have there are different. I watched the earlier show with the woman leader. ADC has 4 female presidential aspirants, so ADC is bringing something different to the table. ADC also has a person with disabilities as a presidential aspirant. So it's a team of intellectuals, people who are extremely different from the usual suspects that we'll see in the other parties.
Okay. And there has been no talk of zoning, no talk of delegates, etc., etc. How are you approaching your own presidential primaries?
Okay, so ADC, there's been no talk of zoning. We don't believe in zoning. We do respect and understand the sentiments of those who believe that zoning should be a factor. We respect that and believe that the older or the legacy parties should respect or should have respected whatever or agreements that they had. But for APC, for ADC, we say that in the year 2022, we shouldn't still be talking about zoning. We should be talking about capability, who the cap fits, So that's what we should be looking at a time like this in Nigeria. The talk of zoning divides Nigeria, continues to divide Nigeria. But one thing you will have noticed with the PDP primaries, people clamored for zoning. And you saw that the same leaders who clamored for zoning voted in a northern candidate. So you know it's not really about zoning, it's about selfish interest. That's what it always boils down to, selfish interest. People don't really care about zoning. It's about their own personal interest. That's why the Southeastern leaders voted in an article who they felt best represents their interests.
Let me flip this conversation to Lagos.
Well, it's gratifying to know that, I mean, some of the thoughts that are going on, you know, the challenges that will naturally come is sellability of whatever ideals to the people who are going to vote. You know, a number of people have had to contend with the fact that a good number of the political parties are not even talking about ideologies or programs or whatever it is that are really, things that the people need. No one is really dealing with governance issues now. Everyone is just talking about, I want to be the president, I want to be president, and because I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. Promises, promises, promises over the years. Isn't it about time? I mean, you would probably have guessed as well that people will already be getting tired of just the promises without a roadmap of how those promises are going to be fulfilled. Is this something you are considering in order to, approach it much differently from others previously?
Thank you. It's understandable that what you see right now, that the conversation that is going on in the body politic is a bit confused because Nigeria is on fire. The Nigerian nation is on fire, and what you see that you have multiple people trying to put out this fire. But the sad thing is that the people who try and put out this fire are the same people who set the Nigerian nation on fire, okay? So in this confusion of the Nigerian nation burning, it's difficult for people to really know what to look for, what to listen to. But in the ADC, our charter is very, very different. We are not approaching governance the way the other parties are approaching governance. We believe that we are bringing a different set of ideals to governance. We believe that that the greatest asset Nigeria has is the Nigerian people. We believe that we should strengthen Nigerian people. We believe that we should have a charter as Nigerians that defines who we are as a people. This has never really existed. That's why we keep on talking about north, south, east, and west. We also believe that security is key to whatever we're doing in Nigeria now. We believe that we should secure our borders. We believe that we should strengthen our security forces. We believe that Nigeria is being undermined right now by the current leadership who does not give the right set of commands or show the wrong body language to our military hierarchy, so nothing is happening. So Nigeria is at war on all fronts. And a country at war on all fronts, most of our citizens really don't understand that Nigeria is at war. If we don't do something very fast where the issue of security is concerned, you'll find that within the next 1 year, Nigeria might actually go into full-blown anarchy. We're a nation where one of our major products right now is the sales of human body parts. Okay, we have descended that low. We're turning into the murder capital of the world. We are the kidnap capital of the world. All these things are happening because we have a leadership that has gone to sleep. So what is ADC going to do differently? ADC is coming to not just rebase, reset Nigeria, but rescue the nation from our current leadership, from a leadership that is just purely about self. We need to start looking at who our assets are, what our assets are, how to bring back these assets. Living in America, you immediately understand that the government has this focus that if we can get our people working, our people will pay taxes. If we strengthen our people will strengthen governance, our people will strengthen the economy, our people will strengthen the communities. We don't see this here. In Nigeria, what we see is money from crude oil. Let's share this money. They don't really care about the people. The people just have come into play right now because the government is broke and the government is what? Tax everybody. Whereas the government has not built businesses. The government has not strengthened businesses in any way, has not strengthened the people. You have over 40 million Nigerians right now living on less than 120,000 naira annually. Can you tax those people? Now imagine if those 40 million people were earning at least 2 million naira annually. the government will take at least 200,000 of that money. That's how government plans an economy. You need to run government like a business. These people come into governance having no experience whatsoever in the world of business, or no experience whatsoever. So they come in there, and all they know is that at the end of the month, you have money to share. Share this money. Put this a little bit here. Put a little bit here. That's why when you see the end of FEC meetings, all they're talking about is that they've awarded contracts for this. Please tell me what nation in the world where at the end of their FEC or EXCO or any similar meeting, that what you are hearing is about road contracts. That's not what drives a government or an economy. It's about policies, policies that make sense, policies that guarantee that everyone thrives.
Well, Mr.
If the people start thriving in Nigeria.
Well,
yes, please.
My sincere apologies for butting in, but perhaps you want to speak to this as well, because one of the things a number of people have also talked about is inadequate collaboration between the government at the center and the government at the various subnationals, states and all of that. Speak to security in particular, because unless there is security, business investments, investors might not feel secure to bring in their resources. Now, earlier on, when we were, opening the show, we talked about insecurity and the local government system as a first line of defense, so to speak. And a number of people are wondering why we have that failure at that local government level when there are states, when the states could have actually played a role in ensuring that the states, the local government are strong enough to be able to defend the nation against any form of attacks, whether internal or external. What kind of collaboration would you propose that Nigeria from the federal level will use to strengthen the states and strengthen the local government system so that development can be generic, can be organic, as opposed to mechanized, which may not last?
Okay. It's not so much about the collaboration, but about changing the system entirely. We need to decentralize security. Unfortunately, the local governments can hardly afford to pay salaries that they have to pay right now for teachers and the rest, okay? So we need to change the whole system completely. Security, yes, I agree, starts from the local governments, but local governments that believe that, just like the state governments, all they are doing is collecting money from central, and they do not, most of them do nothing about raising their IGR. Okay, so you have people at local government. That's where governance has failed in the first place. You have a lot of people who go there as boys of politicians who have absolutely no clue about what to do. Every part of Nigeria is blessed with resources that you can use to take care of the people. We just need to have the right people at that level who now start mining those resources to help the people. So if the local governments are financially autonomous, if the local governments can run their local governments as businesses, start making money, then we now have to look at the situation where Nigeria starts having decentralized security, where you can actually have elections for a chief of police in the local government, a man who is from that place, who understands the people there, who knows the people there, who will know when strangers come into the community, and who is better able to police those places. What you see today is that you have a centralized security apparatus. So they send DPOs from different parts of Nigeria to places where they don't even know the people. Now, tell you, I keep on talking about an experience I and my mom had in our farm in Delta State. We had headsmen come in and they damaged and occupied our farm. Reported to the DPO. The DPO said, "Oh, I can't do anything. Go and negotiate with the people." My mom then takes up with the commissioner of police, and the commissioner of police calls DPO and says, "What do you mean by that? Go and solve this problem out." They call this header who says, "Oh, I'll give you 40,000 naira," in an arrogant manner, for crops worth over 12 million naira that he has destroyed. And in all of this, the DPO was absolutely nonchalant. But if you had a situation where a DPO or a chief of police has been elected by the people, he understands that his being in office depends on his performance in that job, he will act very, very differently. He will be more sensitive to our plight, to our feelings. But in this case, He was completely nonchalant. That's what people are talking about. If you see what's going on in Nigeria, I was in a parley with some delegates from the north 2 days ago, and somebody was almost in tears talking about how bandits are killing them every day, occupy their community, and that they keep on writing to the security agencies, and that no help is coming their way. And when you listen to people like this, you wonder, like, what is the problem with Nigeria? But at the same time, in also speaking to the heads of the military agencies here, you understand that their hands are tied. For the first 4 months this year, I think it was about April that they got the first subvention from government. Nigeria is at war on all fronts, and we have to all get involved in the issues of security. We've had people say that we need to arm people, that people should be able to bear arms so we can confront these people, and I totally agree with that. From local government level, people should not be able to bear arms to resist invaders, to resist bandits, to resist kidnappers. Security is not for federal government alone, or for state government alone, or for local governments. We should all be involved with security. We're in Abuja here. Yeah. We see that Abuja, the communities around Abuja, the outer communities, have been taken over by these bandits. How many security men do we have in Nigeria to be able to resist these people? They are fighting at our borders. They are fighting in the southeast, in parts of the southwest. How many people are there? We are going to wake up one day and find that these people who are occupying what we now call ungoverned spaces are going to invade Aso Rock.
Well,
that's our greatest fear right now.
Well, that clearly suggests
to start doing something about this.
Yeah, let me just comment on that. Clearly suggests somebody somewhere, if their hands are tied, explains why they seem to be looking the other way, but a different conversation entirely. But getting it back to the build-up to 2023 elections, and yeah, speaking to lots of Nigerians, you get to hear on a daily, on a regular basis that they want an alternative. They want something that works. And now, with due respect to all the political parties, the other political parties who have genuine candidates and are genuine in their intentions to get a genuine solution for this country, what is wrong? Because you've seen how these other two parties play, how the solidarity amongst them can walk from one party to the other, how they seem to have that handshake. What is wrong with all the other political parties who say they want to be an alternative? Why can't they all pull together and then see how you can support one person, whatever structure that they have in different areas, pull it all together, and then perhaps that could be a very strong point. What's wrong with that idea?
It's not about the political parties. We keep on making that mistake. You can even if you had 1,000 political parties come together to compete or contest against the APC and PDP, that's not the problem. The problem is the Nigerian people. You have a people who have been systematically abused for decades, and they now have this apathy towards elections. Elections are drawing near right now. How many people have collected their PVCs, right? So those people who have collected their PVCs are those people who consistently will vote APC and PDP. And these parties, APC and PDP, they know that people like you and I who don't vote, the day they collect their PVCs, they will vote them out. So what do? We have these rhetorics we see all the time in the media. Elections are going to be about violence, or your votes don't count. That's what plays in the minds of most Nigerians. And because this plays in their minds, they just don't bother to vote. This is what the small parties are facing. It's not about the small parties coming together. No, it's about Nigerians having this apathy towards elections, towards voting. We found that in the last 2 decades, that about 8 to 10 million people who are in the rural areas are those people who are giving us our president every 4 years. Those are the people who are incentivized with wrappers and rice and goods and what have you, right? The people in the urban centers, they don't vote. You have over 40, 50 million people in the urban centers who ideally should vote. But election day is a picnic for them. They have parties, they don't come out to vote. Then you have the person in the rural area who's not really educated, who now determines for you who is going to lead you for the next 4 years. And then we sit in our homes, offices, beer parlors, complaining about the government and governance when we have not exercised our fundamental civic rights to elect credible leaders. So it's about the Nigerian people. It's not about us coming together.
But Mr.
We can come together as much as we want. But
these are social issues. So there are those who will disagree. with that point, they may say, well, yeah, you might have observed that, but they also know that how did power change hands from PDP to the APC? Now, there's something they do to get those people voting. It doesn't necessarily mean that they will consistently vote for those parties, because they also want their lives to improve, I reckon. Now, isn't it the same Nigerians who are voting those people? So they can always change. But if you say it's not about parties coming together, it's about Nigerians. So you're suggesting then that those political parties who, wherever they are, presenting themselves as an alternative, having known this fact, so why do they then keep coming up knowing that they may not make a difference, if that's what you mean?
So tell you what's happening in this electoral cycle. Nigeria has failed spectacularly on all fronts, right? Nigerians have never been as challenged as they are right now. Seeing this, seeing that people are suffering at an alarming level, we expect that people will say never again. This can never happen. We will never let any of these usual suspects come back, okay? But at the same time, if we are going to say this, we are watching what's going on. You watch the primaries of PDP, for example. We are watching what's happening across the board in local primaries in the states. What's happening? Money is exchanging hands. Those people are still collecting money. So are we really seeing any difference? We're not seeing any difference. But we're hoping that end of first week of June, second week of June, when the all clears, dust settles, and Nigerians realize, oh, guess what? APC have brought out a candidate. PDP has brought out a candidate. Who are these people? The usual suspects. Are we going to continue for the next 4 years with these people? Nigerians will then start talking to themselves, okay? I'm happy we have several months before the ballots, before we vote. Nigerians can have enough time to assess, to evaluate who their presidential candidates are. Nigerians have enough time to hear from all of us, to see what we have to offer. It will never be the same situation what happened in last elections, where some presidential candidates refused to have debates with candidates from smaller parties. We won't allow this time. Nigerians will hear from all candidates and then make their choice based on who they feel best suits them or has the capability to lead Nigeria into the next dispensation.
As a follow-up to Chamberlain's question, you said that in your response that it's the fault of the people that a lot of the people in the rural areas do not vote. But then the people that vote, at least they know the main political parties. They know the APC, they know the PDP. But other political parties, the minor parties, I beg your pardon now, maybe a hard sell in terms of the brand and of the faces. Is that a problem that you consider to be a big obstacle in you getting ahead with your ambition in the 2023 presidential election?
A point of correction. I said that the people in the rural areas are those who actually vote. Those in the urban areas don't vote. INEC has done something good right now. We have enough time to actually campaign everywhere. What we have had before is this. You have parties who have already brand name recognition across the board. And so when it's time to vote, these people know PDP, okay? They've always known PDP. Then APC has come along, right? And why they voted APC? Because the people in PDP are the ones who populated APC, so they knew those people. And of course, these parties have the funds to drive their mobilization down to the grassroots. What's going to happen now is this. We are coming to people in the urban centers, those who are literate, those who know what good governance should be. We are coming to those people who have never voted before, and we're saying to the 40 million people who can't vote, who should vote. We're telling them, get your PVCs, right? 20-something million odd people voted in the last elections. We understand that the actual numbers are nowhere near that. But we're telling people, 40+ million people who can vote, who should vote. We're telling them right now, Nigeria, the fate of Nigeria is in your hands. You should have no apathy towards voting. I keep on talking of the Stockholm Syndrome, where a group of robbers took people hostage, and those people had this affinity for their captors. That's what's happening in Nigeria. We have the Nigerian syndrome, where we've been held captive by a bunch of people, but we still have this affinity for them. We can't seem to let these people go. But those of us who are the elite, so to say, the middle class in the urban centers, this is the time to do right by your country. We cannot let the 2023 election cycle come and say, oh, you know what, the people in the village, the people in the rural area should determine the course of history. History beckons on all Nigerians right now. Do your civic duty. Do what is right by Nigeria. You should all get your PVCs. If you see what's happening with the number of PVCs, you find that people are not really going out to get their PVCs. A lot of PVCs are left uncollected. What's going on with that? But if these people get their PVCs, you will find that there's going to be a difference. It behoves the political parties, or the smaller political parties, as you've called us, or as we even call ourselves, it behoves us to now start driving this campaign, going everywhere. It takes resources. But tell you what, okay? I watched the elections in America, last elections in America. I watched Biden. Biden didn't go everywhere Donald Trump went. Biden used technology. He was having a lot of virtual meetings, right? I watched Zelensky in Ukraine. He used social media. He's the president of Ukraine. We see what he's doing, yeoman's job there in Ukraine, okay? Unfortunately, the people who we can reach through social media in Nigeria, the youths, right? They concentrate on skits, comedy, music, entertainment. Okay? They don't want to discuss topical issues because of that apathy. They feel the nation has failed them. And when they try to do something with NSAS, they saw the way the Nigerian state responded to them. They saw that people have died, people have lost loved ones, and what has been done about it.
So that's the question. What are you going to do differently? I also see that within the ADC, you're going to be running head-to-head. I mean, with someone who already ran in the previous elections, the leader has given him some recognition. Dr. Kingsley Moghalu is one of the aspirants on the platform of ADC. Do you really think that first you stand a chance with him, against him?
I think in the ADC, I believe I'm probably the leading contender in the ADC. I think Kingsley Moghalu is a very smart guy, just like other people. Have a bunch of brilliant people on the ADC. I think it's a delegate election. I think the people are looking to see who has capability to take on the forces that have held us down for long. And I think that on the 8th of June, those delegates will speak and will speak resoundingly.
Why do you say so? Because he has served in public office. People have at least seen what he has had to offer. He's been able to articulate his plans before now. He's even been a candidate. You haven't exactly served in public office. So what exactly would you be saying, hey, Nigerians, this is my work. This is what I'm capable of. And this is what I'm going to be doing differently. We
keep on making this mistake about narrative of public office. It's not about public office where someone is paying your salary. You need to talk to people who every day, at the end of every month, they're paying salaries to people. If you don't wear my shoes, if you don't understand how I'm able to run a business in a challenging environment, how can you then talk about running Nigeria? I'm not depending on the government giving me subvention or paying me salaries. I'm running a business. I run a business effectively for the last 2 decades, paying thousands of people at the end of every month, running a very successful business. That's who you need. You need someone who has capabilities to manage in an environment that has completely failed. Someone who is ingeniously diversifying, making things work. We keep on talking about, this issue of public office, and that's why all the time we're pointing Nigerians to the same usual suspects, people who have alliance with government, who've been in public office.
You don't think that it is important that people are able to show? Because even when we talk to people who mentor, who talk about how young people, for instance, should get into politics, they always tell them to, start small, show your mettle, prove what it is that you can do. I'm sure even you as a businessman, someone won't just come without a CV and you just give the person an opportunity.
So let me
the person must show a CV. You don't think so?
I think what you said is important, but like I said again, so a businessman who runs a business paying thousands of people at the end of the month, runs a successful business in over 20 countries, you don't think that's enough of a CV as against someone who's collecting a salary from government? That's a clear-cut difference. We need people who have capability. When you manage a business, you deal with all facets of the economy. When you run a business, I'm running a business in areas of security, in agriculture, in healthcare, in fintech, okay, in technology. I'm running businesses in all the sectors that matter to reviving the Nigerian economy. I'm a sectoral expert in all those sectors. That's who you need at a time like this. Competence and capability. We are not. The presidency is not Mickey Mouse. It's not child's play. We're talking about competence. We need people who have already displayed that competence in what they are doing on a daily basis. If you have not felt the effect of the Nigerian economy on your business and how you've reacted to it, how then do you say you want to come and run a country? Absolutely wrong. So we need to steer away from that part. What we keep on pointing people to say, oh, you know what, I saw some aspirants who have come and, because I was local government chairman, because I was appointed a minister. You were appointed a minister. How were they appointed a minister? Was it based on the CV? That ministerial appointment is now what contributed to their CV. But what did they do before that? That's what's important. And that's why these guys get there and they are completely clueless. You need people who are thriving in a challenging environment, who are doing incredible things. And we have a lot of these people across board in Nigeria. But we keep on pointing people in the wrong direction, talking about people in government.
How many delegates do you have in all in ADC?
We have about 1,980 delegates.
Who will be going to Abeokuta to elect a candidate for your party?
We are hoping that they will go to Abeokuta too.
You're hoping?
We're hoping, yeah. I mean, it's a challenging time. So asking people, the 1,980 people to go to Abeokuta, accommodate themselves and what have you, it might be difficult. But we're hoping that these people know that they have a civic duty to enrich the democratic experience and vote in the right person. We're hoping that they will do that.
Well, it's a fine place to leave it. We hope that they have been listening to you as well. And I think that they have a choice to make, certainly, when they eventually converge on Abeokuta. Thank you for coming on Sunrise Today this morning.
Thank you, Mokbe.
We've been speaking with Mr. Dumebi Kachiku, who is a presidential aspirant on the platform of the African Democratic Congress, the ADC. We take a break now. We'll be back shortly to give you some analysis. In just a moment, please stay with us.
Welcome back. Still talking about elections. We've got Mr. Fred Nzako. He's a legal practitioner and a public affairs analyst. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good to be with you. Good morning.
Still talking about elections. Let's take it off from where our last guest left it off in terms of seeking an alternative to the other two political parties who've been in power at the center at one point in time or the other. So he thinks that Nigerians, the problem, I did ask him a question. He thinks it's not about political parties coming together and forming one strong bloc to challenge this other two. The Nigerians don't vote. They keep voting for the same political parties. And he thinks, look, it's not about that. Something needs to change. What do you think about that?
Well, if you certainly need to change, politics is about people. And then the good thing about democracy is the freedom of choice. That's the beauty of democracy, freedom of choice. And that freedom is as enshrined, not just in the Constitution, but even in practice around the world. What are the choices before the people? That's the major question that one has to ask. And every political party is made of people. Who are the people? What have they put on ground? And they call it structure. In political language, it's called structure. What structure do you have on ground? How well has the concept of a party, how well has such concept permeated in the minds, in the psyche and mentality of the people? These are all the things that play out. And if a particular political party, for example, has been around for the past 20-something years, over time, it has etched itself in the minds of the people. Now, a new party will now come up, new in quote, because if a political party has been on paper but has not been able to win elections in the minds of the people, it is always new. And then you now say a new party. How well will that new party be able to upstage the ones that have been in existence for a long time? Even in America, that we practice its own type of democracy, there are not only two parties, there are other smaller parties. But you always hear of Republican and the Democrats. There are other parties. And those other parties are on the fringes. You now ask, why have those other parties not been able to win major elections in America, despite the freedom allowed by the system? The same thing will play out in Nigeria. It keeps playing out. Every now and then, at point of election, when election is coming, the so-called third force will emerge, and people will begin to say, oh, is that the third force that will upstage the existing ones? When election comes proper, the reality will be that the so-called third force will not be a force after all. So you will now begin to ask, political analysts will now begin to ask, why has that always been so? And do you think that it will be different in 2023? I can tell you that I doubt it very seriously.
But then how can these parties, because they pretty much disappear into oblivion immediately after the elections have been fought and won, how can they be participatory such that we can now have a virile democracy, not just when it is an electioneering season?
Our democracy is already virile because as long as there is freedom of association, as long as people can belong to any party whenever they like, freedom to enter, freedom to exit, it is virile and it is democratic. So the next thing, going by your question, is why has this new, in quote, ones not been able to win elections? And then why do they seem to go into oblivion after every election era? You sustain the party with funding. You sustain the party with the people. And you have to continue to have activities of political parties at all levels. And then the party will be seen to be doing what the people expect and what people want. That's the only way it will be sustainable. And then how can it be sustainable when that party has not won any election? Let me take, for example, you conduct governorship election, the party did not win any one, no seat in federal house, no seat even in state house. Who will now be the one to be interacting with the people? So it will now become a case of people coming together to hold the election, and then after election, everybody goes back. And then some others who cannot even sustain the system will find their way into the bigger parties. And that way, the fringes, the parties on the fringes naturally will collapse and disappear. Only for them to begin to gang up again when there is election. Well, that way, they will find it difficult to win elections.
Perhaps that's one of the reasons that there's been distrust of this third force that you talked about earlier, largely because people are wondering, where did you come from? Where were you 3 years or 4 years ago? But you know, Chamberlain's first question is about the people.
Yes.
And let me stay there for a little while. And of course, you know, something related to what Bukola also asked. We're talking about the leadership recruitment process here and how we can improve that process. It's the people that employ other people from among themselves to lead them. But you would also observe that over the years, the higher the number of voters, the lower the percentage of voters that come out to vote. And it's really, really disturbing. Now, people are generally, it would seem, tired of the current order, what some would call the old order. But then there is limited options, limited choices for the people to make. We are headed for another general elections now. And the same names, some of the same names they've been hearing since 1999 are the same names out there. Are you in any way optimistic that we will have an upsurge of voters this time around? I'm asking that because that's the clamor. Everyone wants people to come out. No one has been able to interrogate the people who are the candidates. The people have not been able to interrogate the candidates that have thrown their hats in the ring. The political parties, the delegates, I don't even know if such a thing happens. We hear about screening, but is it how tenuous is that process? So are you optimistic that the people will indeed take the gauntlet this time around and go out to elect their leaders?
Naturally, Ayo, it is the responsibility of political parties to galvanize the people, to ensure that the apathy, voter apathy, is minimized, to ensure that more and more people pick interest in deciding leadership. But above all, what will galvanize such interest is when the people know and believe that their efforts will amount to something. That is, that their votes will count. And that now shifts to INEC. the very moment there is this confidence that when people's vote means something in the system, more and more people would be compelled, interested to go and cast their vote. So it's a double-edged sword. One, galvanize the people. And two, having galvanized them, allow their votes to count. So that in subsequent elections, they will not lose interest.
You suggesting INEC doesn't allow that happen?
No. Why I say so is because when you see the continuous decline in the turnout of voters over time, then you begin to ask yourself, why would that be? The population is increasing.
What role does INEC? What role does INEC play?
The number of registered voters is increasing, but then the number of the turnout of voters continue to decrease. So why should that be? It doesn't add up. It is supposed to be.
Now, why do you think that is?
Why I think that is because one, the propensity to galvanize the people is low among the political parties. It is very low. The political parties are not doing enough. And then even the ones that they have done, once there is an election and people believe, whether rightly or wrongly, that the candidate they voted for was torpedoed and some other person declared winner, they will not want to.
So wait. Again, you're suggesting people pick up, more people register to vote.
Yes.
But voter turnout drops.
That is, but that is reality on ground.
So you think that is as a result of politicians not galvanizing the electorate to vote?
One, not galvanizing the electorate adequately, and two, public enlightenment not being enough. The people should begin to see
public enlightenment. My apologies. On whose part?
On the part of both the politicians and the electoral umpire, and the government through the National Orientation Agency.
Yeah.
Yes, through the National Orientation Agency, people should understand that going to vote is as civic as going to do anything that will favor them.
Let me ask Ayo's question.
If you have responsibility to eat and keep alive, people should understand that they also have that responsibility to vote and keep democracy alive.
Let me ask Ayo's question in a different way.
Yes.
With these, category of aspirants being churned out, it would seem as if we're reinventing the wheel, same of same. As a Nigerian, would you be encouraged to go out and vote with this aspirant, a candidate on parade?
The reality of our democratic experience is that we don't have independent candidates for now. You only vote for whoever the political parties have thrown up. Only. And that is why we keep asking that people should get more interested in what happens around them. If people know that a particular candidate is not good enough, and they say it, the political parties that will want to bring them will be conscious of that in one way or the other, and they will not put them forward for the vote of the people. And if they insist on doing that, people vote the other way and they will lose. It's a dynamic journey. From your experience of the past, you shape the activities of today, which will also shape your activities of tomorrow.
Well, you see, my apologies, Chamberlain. That experience of yesterday is one of the things Mike Igini spoke to, recently when we had him. So look, one of the reasons that people do not come out to vote is their dissatisfaction with the performance of the people they employed the first time. Yes. That at the end of the day, if people engage certain individuals to do some jobs for them and they are not able to deliver, what's the assurance I have that if I employ this next person, he's going to deliver on the job?
Much as I agree to that, we also have to know that the way the democracy of our Nigeria is structured, if, for example, 60 million people have registered to vote and only 1 million turn out to vote, only 1 million turn out to vote, and out of that 1 million, somebody scores 50-something% of that 1 million, making maybe 500 and something thousand over 60 million, he will still be sworn in. That is the thing we want Nigerians to understand, that whether you come out or not,
you have voted.
You have voted. Because if you don't vote, they will vote for you.
Nature abhors vacuum.
Nature abhors vacuum.
If you vote somebody and then he doesn't perform, it doesn't mean you should sit back.
It
What you're
doesn't mean
supposed to
that
do
you
is
sit
you
back
go out
and-
there and vote him or
and
she
vote
out
him out.
and vote the next
And
person
by the
in.
time
That's the way it
people-
works.
That's the way it works.
So-
And by the time people agitate, and then we begin to look at the process of
But-
removing the man or the woman that has not performed. That's a story for another day.
But Buki's question was tailored to asking, trying to get your impression about, so who will it be for the APC then? Who they throw up for?
well,
She said the candidates that they've thrown up. So who would yours be?
now PDP has decided on their own candidate. I'm talking presidential now.
Yes.
APC is the whole country and the whole world is looking up to APC.
Still aspiring.
Let's all are aspiring. Let's see who you are going to throw up. But then there's a dynamic. There's a dynamic that we must recognize. The dynamics of North and South, which started in 1914 amalgamation. And that dynamics means that what is good for the goose is also good for the gander. If you go north, you come south. It is not written, but gentleman agreement is an agreement. This is an agreement among the political gladiators, and the people seem to have sucked it in that when Mr. President comes from the north, the next Mr. President should come from the south. But that arrangement is an arrangement that is internal to political parties. And that is why PDP, in their own wisdom, in quote, have decided to go north this time around because their last flag bearer, who became a president in Goodluck Jonathan, came from the south. This time around, let us go north. And in going to north, which region or zone has not produced a president? They said it is not east. They now went to northeast and they have produced an Atiku Abubakar. That is for PDP. APC, as of today, the current president is from the north. And following the pendulum of north and south, the pendulum will swing southwest in the internal affairs of APC. And then when they swing southwest, they will think, which region in southwest, in the south, sorry, which region in the south has not produced a president? Southeast. So we expect that if you go by equity, good conscience, and justice, APC should be thinking of going to the southeast.
Well, we'll explore that a little further
Yes.
in just a moment. Don't go away. Come back. So when you say come to the south, looking at what played out within the PDP,
Yes.
because some say, look, since you say it's among the political elites,
Yes.
these chaps were in PDP, many of them before they were in APC, so a leopard might not change his spot. And then, I don't know if you saw Mr. Chidoka's piece where he did speak about those who did damage to that call for a president of Southeast extraction. He says, look, no one did as much disservice to that idea or that plan, much more than 80 out of the 95 Igbo delegates who were there. Yes. So if you could rely on his perspective on what transpired, what's the guarantee that when you get to the APC, the same thing won't play out? And who do you blame if that happens?
Let me tell you, from 1994 Constitutional Conference that eventually gave birth to the 1999 Constitution, Nigeria was no longer talking about tribes. The very moment that God-given wisdom of Felix Ekwueme came out to the floor, it was a minority report, but it was adopted, that broke Nigeria geographical space into 6 geopolitical zones. That was a master stroke. And with that, we no longer talk about tribe. You can't be talking about Igbo, Hausa, Yoruba, Efik, Ibibio, TV, and the rest. You talk about zones. There are over 300 tribal nationalities, speaking over 350 languages in Nigeria.
What makes up the zones?
So what makes up the zones are the states.
What makes up the states?
The states are people. The people are tribal elements, yes. But then for political nicety, you don't talk about tribes anymore because we have tried that. And then there was tripod of Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba.
But
right?
If I
so that led to unnecessary tribalism in politics. Today we are talking about zones. So I better you tell me about Southeast zone than you tell me about an Igbo man. You better tell me about the Northwest zone than you tell me about an Hausa man or a Fulani man. Don't tell me about the Yoruba man in Southwest. Tell me about Southwest. That's what we talk about zones. And I even belong to the school of thought that advocate that such zones should be made administrative centers. So that when we begin to talk about
before you get to that point,
then we now know what exactly.
Before you get to that point, I think if I understand properly what he was trying to say is that there's a method to the madness. So you have to, how is it going to drop? How is it going to get to the southeast? Will it just drop on the laps? There has to be lobbying. The people themselves have to demonstrate that, look, we are together in this particular scenario. So if people see that, they say, okay, well, if that's the case, if a lot of them think, okay, well, they want it, so why not? That seems to be the point he's making.
Nobody can say the people are not together. The people are together. And I tell you that no zone in Nigeria...
Were they together with the PDP?
No zone... That
the delegates?
No, look, the delegates may be thinking something else. I don't want to think about what the public is thinking about. What if the delegate...
It's not the public. I'm talking about the delegates within the party who voted for where the presidential candidates should come from.
What if the delegates were thinking about Northeast?
Oh, that's hypothesis. I don't know about hypothesis, so I can't speak to that.
So the whole thing, because until all the delegates come to tell you what they had in mind for voting for what they voted for, if they felt this time around the North-South swing, let us go to Northeast, how do you begin to argue that? So that by the time it comes back again, within PDP, you begin to talk about Southeast. All right? Because it comes to South. Because Northeast, North Central, Southeast are in the same wagon shouting that they have not produced the president. When you talk about zones, that's why I say I carefully don't talk about tribes, because we have gone beyond issue of tribes. We talk about zones. And then these three zones are in the same vessel, saying we have not produced a president.
If
and if this time around, it is the favor and the luck of the Northeast, the Southeast will be favored the next. And possibly North Central will be their turn. Now back to APC. We don't expect APC to, having looked at the issue of North-South dichotomy, the swing between North and South, to still think of North this time around. No. They should think of South. And when they think of South, they should think of Southeast.
Now you're talking about all the public ones, which you didn't want to go to all the public ones.
They will think of Southeast.
You didn't want to go to the public before.
No,
but now...
No, but that is what it is.
Because if you talk about zones, you know that so many people who argue with you saying, well, if you want to talk about zones, let's expatiate and say, well, North and South. So if it goes to South, wherever it goes to in the South. So that argument never ends.
No.
But
you can present it, because if you are talking about balancing of power, equity, good conscience and justice, when you come to South, you think of Southeast.
All right. So we'll see what happens and how that plays out, because all eyes, as you said, is on the APC and see where will their candidates come from. Mr. Freddie Nzako, a legal practitioner and also a public affairs analyst. Thank you for your time. We know you'll be watching that keenly, so we'd like to hear your thoughts afterwards.
Many thanks.
All right, so let's take a look at some of the comments coming through from you out there. This first one comes from Abraham. He's talking about inability to collect PVC. He may have heard Mr. Nzako now. He says, I registered to vote in 2012. Since then, I've been unable to collect my PVC. Every election cycle, I go to INEC office here in Maiduguri. I live and work in Maiduguri, he says. But the response is always negative. The latest feedback from the INEC office is that my PVC is not ready. Since 2012, I have proof of registration, that's the INEC slip, but for some unknown reason, I just can't lay my hand on my PVC. I refuse to be that pessimistic. I will keep going there until deadline for collection. But at this point, I am honestly not hopeful. But Abraham, don't give up. I think we need to highlight this subject. INEC will pay a lot of attention to this.
One thing you can do right now, Abraham, go to cvr.inecnigeria.org. Maybe you can be able to lay your complaints there all over again. It's one of the things one of the instruments INEC has been shouting about. cvr.inecnigeria.org. Options for you there. Professor Imonoka Inakana says, Nigeria has transcended an era where people have to learn on the job. Governance is not schooling. Our country's economy is already an active volcano that's tumultuous. We must be careful that people we select and elect have the capacity to change the economic landscape.
Well, Olagunju Oladile is just as concerned about the nature of Nigeria's politics. And he says, Nigerian governance and politics is, I believe, based on religion, tribe, and gender. As a Nigerian, being felt that my tribe, religion, and gender limit me to being a president is a huge problem for national belonging. The many reasons for today's agitations and insecurity. There's no better way to put it. Malkwe.
Excuse me. And I'll just take this last two. This one is from Festus Akimboyewa, who says, sad that Nigerian women are so unequally represented in politics and governance. Time we prioritize developing our women for leadership in politics and governance if we want our country to be more stable, peaceful, and prosperous. And Pastor Law Alpha Cross says Nigerian women are specially endowed and capable of occupying leadership positions, but their male counterparts running for elective positions are very greedy and insatiable and may never concede to their requests. It doesn't mean that we won't keep trying. We certainly will keep at it and see what eventually happens. I mean, it's supposed to be one for all and all for one. Shouldn't it be that way?
Unless you want to be a musketeer, it should be that way.
Well, the following days are bound to be interesting. I can't wait for us to be get on the other side and see how it turns out.
My name is Ayo Makinde. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Of course, I'm Bukola Samuel.
It's a very interesting...
Yeah.
I'm Bukola Samuel Webimo Malkwe.
I was just saying the arrangement is very interesting. I don't know what the producer and those behind the screens are up to, but maybe they're passing a message. Thank you for watching this morning. I'm Malkwe Ogun Yusuf.
It's just about the optics, basically. I'm Chamberlain, so we'll see you tomorrow.